This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
Welcome to She Wasn't Born Yesterday, the pod that fearlessly chats about all things affecting us ladies who are 40 plus fabulous.
Well, and the guys that want to know what we think.
Well, them too. I'm Janet Evans, advertising creative.
And I'm Jenny Woodhouse, semi-retired social worker.
In other words, you're busier than ever. We're J&J and we're super thrilled you're with us, or she wasn't born yesterday. Gorgeous. Now, you're divorced, but when you were splitting up, did you guys fight over who was going to get the lava lamp or the pink shag pile carpet, for example?
No.
No?
We did not. The only
I'm the
fight
boss
was,
of this household mug? Or
No, the only fuss was, don't leave your stuff here, take it with you.
Really?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what about all the valuable, all the, Tiffany jewellery and the crystal?
Yeah, no, I've kept the Tiffany
the
jewellery.
crystals?
The crystals.
I won't tell
I've
anyone.
kept the
No,
crystals.
no one's going to know about this. No
Goodness gracious.
So you didn't have any problem about who was going to get what?
Well, it was a little complex. Yeah, it was a little more complex than just making a decision together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spill the beans. Go on.
Well, one of us made the decision and the other one got kicked out. He was the one making the decision and I was the one getting kicked out.
You didn't actually have to say that because I would have guessed that.
Yeah.
Just by your body language.
Yes, anyway.
Does that make a difference? Like, did that make a difference to you, like financially at the time?
Oh, huge difference.
Oh, wow.
Huge difference. Because he's left in the house that we own outright and I'm out with children looking for a place to rent.
Right. But you both owned the place together, 50-50.
Yes.
But did he change the locks or
Oh,
something?
yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Wow, that's so devious and hideous. Who would have thought that things like this would happen when people are splitting up?
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Well, I mean, you're not alone because, the Australian Bureau of Stats sort of backs that up because they reckon that 30% of marriages in Australia end in divorce, which I actually reckon, I feel like it's more.
I feel like it's more as well.
Yeah.
But, oh well,
But
Bureau of
hey,
Statistics should
They're usually
know.
a little behind in there, it's
Maybe
usually
they are.
1942 kind of.
Oh, it could be
that
too.
They
They might
did their
have
last
hooked up
survey.
the wrong one. Yeah.
But that's 1 in 3 people who once said I do at the altar or at the registry office, and then now they're saying I don't.
Yes,
So
that's a lot.
It is a lot of people, and I think
It's not 1 in 3 people. It's 1 in 3 couples.
Well, yes, that's true. Actually,
What is that?
Yeah, of course, it affects both, right?
Yeah,
of
you
course.
would think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
Generally does.
Hadn't thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think it through, Janet.
Yes, I will after we chat. It must sort of ambush a lot of people because you don't go into a marriage expecting or
that's
hoping that it's going to end.
exactly right.
And I also read, though, that legally you need to be separated for at least 12 months before you can apply for a divorce.
You do, which is a big surprise to people who don't know that.
Yeah. Why do you think it's a surprise?
Well, because all they are thinking of is getting out of this marriage and they're not thinking through how long they have to wait.
Right.
Yeah.
But it could work in a good way because people might rethink
Well,
their
that's
decision.
the idea, I imagine.
But anyway, separation can definitely be a minefield. And so to guide us through it without too many explosions, our guest today is the 40-plus fabulous Sarah Bevan, who is principal and accredited family law specialist with Sarah Bevan Family Lawyers. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Sarah.
Thank you.
And Sarah, so what exactly do you do?
Probably the best way of describing what I do with when people are separating is trying to help them find their way out of the mud and find a resolution and a way forward that doesn't break them.
Yeah, right. But it's not like you're a psychologist
No,
or something like that. So
absolutely not.
you're really much more focused on
On the law.
The law and which includes all of the material things.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, right.
Do you find that that often women end up in a less good financial position than men?
Many ways to answer that question. I think traditional marriages, especially, older generation traditional marriages, absolutely. She has generally been the one at home. He's been the one earning the money. He's the one with the knowledge. He's the one with the skills and everything. And she's left then floundering and trying to work out practical things. So, even down to sometimes what's the bill? What bills does a household have? How do I, not even going so far as budgeting, but sometimes even more basic than that. Other times where you've got more relationships that are more equal financially, it's still much harder to live as two single people in terms of finances than it is as one couple.
And why is that?
Well, as a couple, I mean, you think about it, your utilities are not one person's doubled. They're, your electricity might be $1,500 for a household, but it's still $1,000 for a single. So, it's simple figures, yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean, right.
Yeah.
And so if a woman comes to you and is separating and wants to make sure that she gets the best possible financial deal out of the whole thing, not just the lava lamp, but what she's actually entitled to, what are the steps you take to help her through that?
Well, first thing to bear in mind is the earlier the better. So I get a lot of women coming to see me before they're actually separated, so they want to prepare themselves, get ready.
Okay.
Your story of your husband being the one who ended it and kicked you out is highly unusual statistically, because it's much more common for women to be the ones who end the relationship.
Really?
Far more common. So over the years, I probably get a woman a week who isn't yet separated but is thinking about it. And I can count on the fingers of my hand how many men I've had do that. So first things first is come and get advice first, because what needs to happen depends on her individual circumstances. And one of the big things is everyone has an opinion about family law. Everyone. At the school gate, at work. Everyone.
I have an opinion about family law.
Yeah. And your opinion for you is exactly right, no doubt. But it might not be for Janet, or might not be for me. So very important to get specific advice to your individual circumstances rather than sort of using ChatGPT, for example. It happens. So steps are come in, find out what she needs to do. If there are complicated financial structures, then it might be a matter of trying to gather that information before she leaves the house, sometimes by, less than above board measures in terms of, she's not just going and saying, can you please tell me? She's rifling through the filing cabinet, or he's left his computer on and having a look at it, things like that, so she can inform herself a bit more, because one of the hardest things is finding out information. If from an obstinate ex, even though he has the duty of disclosure, everyone does, finding it out can be very difficult.
So you were just saying that it's mainly women coming to you first as they're thinking about separating. Yep. Have you ever picked up any themes that are common throughout most women coming to see you? Themes about why they would be leaving? Absolutely.
When I first started practicing a long time ago, we didn't have the language for it, and we do now, which I think it really comes down to the mental load. Women just reach a point, and it often all sort of coincides very commonly around, sort of perimenopausal women and teenage children, and they just go, I'm done, I've had enough, this is not the life that I want, that I envisage for myself. So absolutely, I think there's that theme that is very common.
And around the 40-plus kind of age group would be particularly
absolutely
people that come and see you.
Yep.
And so you've talked about binding financial agreements on your website. What exactly is that, and does that help prevent financial abuse from a woman's point of view?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So a binding financial agreement, or BFA for short, is an agreement. They can be entered into at any stage, so before marriage or before a relationship, so what you commonly know as a prenup, during a relationship, and you can also have the separation agreement as a BFA. When you're thinking about BFAs as a prenup type BFA, mostly in a lot of circumstances they don't serve women. They're much more designed around or they're much more commonly used by wealthy men, sometimes wealthy women, but of course men hold much more of the wealth in our world, so much more commonly designed for wealthy men to protect what they came in with, in effect. It can help, especially when you have older women who have families and existing wealth. It can help protect their position. But there's a lot going in a lot of circumstances for a BFA, a prenup type BFA, but there's also a lot potentially at risk, because how we look at a property settlement if you don't have a BFA is based on a whole lot of discretionary factors. You're taking all those away with a BFA and just saying this is what it will be at separation, which gives you certainty, but it might not then be tailored for your particular circumstances when you finally do separate.
So would you get a BFA when you are separating, at that point, when someone comes to see you?
Well, if they're obviously anyone who's separating and they don't have a prenup in place, the aim is to reach an agreement. And the vast majority of people do. Only a small percentage go to court, and only a tiny percentage end up at a trial if they go to court. So the aim is to reach an agreement, and having a BFA is one form of having an agreement. Another is consent orders or even informal agreements in a few rare circumstances.
Can you just tell us what a prenup is?
So prenuptial agreement, which you've probably seen in all American
movies.
Yes.
Where before you marry or before you move in together, you both go off to lawyers, and normally the wealthier one has this long document drawn up that says, I'm coming in with X, Y and Z. When we separate, I'm taking X, Y and Z, and any growth in X, Y and Z. And anything that we acquire together, then we might split it in, whatever proportion it might be, normally 50-50. And that's not necessarily what the law says would happen if you were to look at it at the end of the relationship.
So why would anyone sign a prenup, any woman?
A woman marrying a particularly wealthy man where she doesn't have her own assets.
Like Rupert Murdoch, for example. He's on his, ninth wife or something? So
Yeah,
I guess he has to cancel all the previous prenups and update them.
Yes, I guess so.
I'm not sure.
Okay, you should ask him.
I think I will.
Yeah, I mean...
Has he been to see you?
Unfortunately not. Good source of repeat business. I mean, a woman marrying someone at that level, I guess the reason you'd enter into the prenup is because you're going to get a whole lot of money anyway that you might not have otherwise.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
But when you're talking about more ordinary sort of situations where one is quite wealthy but not Rupert Murdoch and the other is not, then you've got to question what the bargain is for them.
Yeah.
So what happens when, say, a woman comes to see you, she's found out lots of information about what they may or may not have, but how do you know that information isn't being withheld from her and that the guy perhaps has a Cayman Island account or something like that, that he hasn't told her about or she can't find?
Often it's a matter of simple common sense. So if you're talking about, someone on a salary of 150 and he's employed and, between mortgage and school fees and everything else, there's probably not any money left over. And if there is, it's not probably going to be much. Other times, the tricky situations where you've got, self-employed people with companies and structures, and especially when other extended family are involved, then you've got real issues about finding out. So any couple who is separating has a duty of disclosure. So it's very much a show and tell rather than a hide and seek type situation. But that's the theory of it. It doesn't always work in practice. So what do you do if someone's hiding information? It depends on where you can follow sort of the breadcrumbs. So often you'll get a pile of information and you've got to work through that and you can say, well, there's big gaps there. Are there any other breadcrumbs I can follow? And then there are various court processes we can use like subpoenas, other discovery type procedures. If it's on the Cayman Islands, it's hard because then we have some real issues about getting subpoenas out to the Cayman Islands.
So is it against the law to withhold information?
It's contrary to the Family Law Act. It's not a criminal offence.
Okay, so where does that leave people?
What's the punishment if it gets discovered down the track?
Well, I mean, the potential punishment is, let's say you have an agreement, you put an agreement into effect, they both get, A and B amounts, and then then she somehow comes across the Cayman Island account that has, 10 million in it. In that circumstance, that might be justification to set aside the previous agreement and start again.
Right, okay. And so assuming that it's the woman who's come to see you, you draw up, based on all the information, a financial agreement, and then does the soon-to-be ex, get a copy of that and has to agree to that too for it to be enforced?
So I don't draw up an agreement until they've actually reached an agreement. So first thing, we talk about, if she comes in, she's not yet separated, we talk about all sorts of things like planning. So, for example, if she wants to keep the house, I go through various steps to look at what the potential outcome might be for her to go and talk to financial planners. Can she keep the house? And then we talk about the approach she might take with him, which will, of course, depend on her knowledge of him and what he's like and how she's going to approach the subject of the property settlement issues with him. The aim is for them to go away, talk about it, reach an agreement, come back, tell me it's done, and I write it up. Goes off to him, his lawyer. Everyone signs it, everyone's happy, everyone's disclosed everything, and it's great.
How often does it go that smoothly?
That smoothly? Not very. There's always bumps, but there's a lot of emotion around separation, and the whole however many stages of grief people are going through and all that sort of thing. And then people who are ordinarily quite together and with it can become a little bit nuts around separation.
Is that a legal term?
It really is.
Yeah.
Totally nuts. And so things can go off the rails for a bit. And one of my big part of my role is to try and keep people focused on moving forward and not getting distracted by the white noise and the craziness that might be going on, so that you can keep moving forward and just sort of ride over those little bumps of the road.
Yeah. Do you have a gigantic box of tissues on your desk?
Yeah, it's
right.
safe to say here.
Yeah. How often does it degenerate into sort of absolute emotional mess when people are talking about
it does
separating?
from time to time. And it can become very tricky. And these days, with cost of living pressures, so many separated people are living under the one roof while there's
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, how hideous.
It's some of the stuff that goes on is just pure insanity because you've got this person in your face or in your bathroom.
Yeah, that's hard. Where do the children fit in, and what age is a child, and what age do you get where you get money from the government to support you?
Child support?
Thank you. Child support. That's a dead giveaway, isn't it? What's that thing, where you support your child? What's that called? Yeah.
So child support is separate from property settlement, and there's a reason for that. Because, back in the day when the Family Law Act first came out, you had a lot of dads saying, well, I'm only giving you money if you spend it on this or spend it on that. And it's like, well, the person who has the primary care of the children needs to pay for a whole lot of stuff. They're expensive kids, scarily so. So child support is very separate, and child support is actually based on a formula. And it is based on a formula that looks at the respective income of both parties and looks at the amount of care that they both give and the age of the child, because teenagers are more expensive than younger kids. So there's a formula, and you can actually go onto Services Australia and there's a calculator and input all the information to get an idea of what child support would be.
Okay. So is any of that taken into account when you do a financial agreement?
To some degree. Or let's assume we're not having an agreement. Let's assume that we're looking at an actual contested property settlement. The failure of the non-caring party to provide support for the children is a factor that might come into play when we're looking at the steps in a property settlement.
So I've heard of quite a few people that I've spoken to over the years have said, when we separated, my husband just didn't contribute to child support at all.
And, if he's self-employed and his income is low, apparently, it can be very hard to go behind that, and for Services Australia Child Support Agency to be able to claw that back.
What about de facto relationships? Is it the same for them as a married relationship?
It is.
And same-sex couples?
Same-sex, de facto, married, all the same. Yeah. There are different sections of the Act that cover de facto versus marriage, but in effect it's all the same.
Right.
And what's the craziest stuff that people fight over? Is it the pet?
Oh, it's often the pet.
Yeah.
I've had a case of dog nappers.
No.
Where they literally broke into each other's houses. I think him into hers twice and hers into his 3 times to kidnap the dog.
Wow.
I've had people fight over a dog called Fish.
Was there a fish called Wanda as well?
No, there was a fish called Thor.
Did they fight over Thor?
They did.
They were dyslexic.
But, what matters to me is quite different from what matters to other people. Often it's about, your pets, your dogs, maybe not your goldfish, but your dogs definitely are a different category.
Fur babies.
Yeah. But, when they're fighting over Tupperware, which sometimes happens, or they're fighting over the print signed by a musician, I get it, but you can't split it in half.
Yeah.
You've got to find a way.
So how much are you sort of counsellor as well? Do you offer them that kind of advice? It's like, come on, just get over that. You don't need that.
Pull your socks up.
Yeah.
Move on.
That is in effect what I say. Every single day I will say something along the lines of, I need you to put your commercial thinking hat on right now and think commercially. Obviously, you've got to have a level of empathy to sort of understand where it's coming from and help keep them focused on the big picture. And sometimes you've got to have the little losses in order to get the bigger gains. And it all depends on the circumstances.
Generally, how long does it take from the time someone comes to see you to when an agreement's signed?
Depends on how well they both behave.
I thought so.
Depends on how well they're both advised. Really depends. In real terms, probably the quickest I've ever had was she came back, I think 3 weeks later and said we're all agreed. I got the agreement done quite quickly, sent it off to him, and it was back to me, I think, about a week and a half later. And that was crazy. I was like, oh.
He must be hiding something.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
That was my first thought, but it was too obvious. They were just very reasonable. And there are plenty of reasonable people out there.
Okay.
You know, as a lawyer, I see all the really crazy stuff, really, really crazy stuff. But there are...
Tell us, Sarah. We really want to know.
It makes me feel quite normal sometimes. Some of the
Okay,
stuff I see.
that's helpful for you.
Yep, it is. It is. Oh, look, I'm not such a bad
Validated.
parent. Look what these people do. So in everything in family law, everything depends on the circumstances.
What if they just can't agree at the end of the day? They just cannot agree.
At the end of the month, at the end of the year, at the end of the decade.
You've got to find a time to call it and end up going to court.
Okay.
Court's there for a reason, and court is there... generally the cases that I end up having to file in court are where one person, and it's not usually my client, one person is being so obstinate or so problematic or trying to hide things that we know are hiding. So the only way I can help the client is by filing in court to use the court processes like subpoenas. The other time is where they just won't engage. The other person just won't engage. So in order to be able to get to a point where you can force the sale of the home or the transfer of the home, something like that, then you need to go to court. They're generally the only times or when there's a real risk of something urgent happening. So he's about to sign away one of the investment properties to his brother. And we need to stop that. They're really the times we go to court, but if they've been going backwards and forwards, and they're just stuck, then sometimes you have to go to court.
So
you actually... Sorry.
I was just going to say, what does going to court mean? Because I had said to my ex-husband at the time, who came to me and said, I want a divorce. I'd said, I don't want a divorce. But he went off and filed for divorce anyway, and the next thing I knew, I got the certificate of divorce in the mail. Is that a separate thing from a financial agreement?
It is. So divorce and property settlement are completely separate. So divorce you can't file, as you said earlier, can't file until 12 months after separation. The idea is that you might reconcile, etc. And those stats that talked about 30% of marriages end in divorce, there's probably a whole lot more that end in separation. That's itself.
Yes. Okay.
So financial settlement, you can apply to the court the day after you separate for financial settlement. So financial settlement, divorce, completely separate. The only relationship they've got with each other is that once you've been divorced, you've got a year as a right to make an application to the court for a financial settlement.
Only 1 year. Yeah. So you've got to make it within the next 12 months.
Yep. You separated, wait 12 months for your divorce. The divorce goes through, it takes 2 or 3 months. Then you've got another year to make that application to the court.
From the time the divorce gets signed off by someone in authority.
By the judge. Yep.
So what did you do, Gorge, after you got that certificate?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh, right. Okay.
No.
That was it? Done deal?
Yeah.
And there was a settlement drawn up into that agreement that said something?
Not really. No.
You get
really.
half the house, he does, and...
No.
How did you sort all that out?
Well, he stayed in the house. I stayed out renting until I bought him out of his half of our house.
Tricky. Did you have a lawyer? Did you know about Sarah at the time?
I did not know about Sarah at the time. No. It was a while ago.
Wow, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
But going to court for a financial settlement has lots of steps. So less than about 5% of cases that start at court end up at a trial. Because there are steps.
5%. That's very small.
It is very small. The stats might have changed recently as our processes in court have changed and things have got a bit quicker. But the court's designed to help people resolve the matter, even though they're in court. It's still focused on trying to agree.
Right. So they're trying to agree, and if they still can't, they end up in court. And what does a trial look like? What do you mean? A judge with a jury?
Not a jury, no. But you've both got your solicitors, your barristers, people are being cross-examined, there's the argument being made, there's lots of paperwork being tendered to the judge, and A typical family law property settlement case will last between 2 and 5 days, depending on the complexity. And
And then the judge makes the final decision.
Sounds expensive.
Oh, it's very expensive.
Oof.
Yep.
Yes, that's why people should come and see you instead.
Yes,
Not get there.
I agree.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, do you get feedback about people who've come to you, clients who've said, oh, that worked out really well, thank you so much for your help, or do you just never hear about people again?
Most people I hear from are just so happy that they got to a point of getting a resolution. So people come sometimes and talk about they want justice, and it's like, well, you're not getting justice. You're coming for an answer. What does justice mean in a marriage? What is justice?
Good question.
For every complaint over here, there's 5 over here, and then there's 25 for those 5, you know. So there's no sense of justice about getting a resolution. So everyone who gives me feedback is, I am so glad it's done. I'm so glad that we stayed focused on trying to get to the end rather than getting distracted by the side things, basically.
And what do you do in your downtime, Sarah? Do you go skydiving or something, or bungee jumping?
Between work, 3 children, sport, parents, there's no downtime.
Driving to the office, listening to podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It literally is.
So gorgeous. If people want to come and see you, what kind of money will it cost them to come and see you as compared to, say, going to court?
How much it costs depends on where they go. So what I like to do is I like to scare people by telling them what a trial will cost, because then everything else sounds so much more reasonable.
Okay, are you prepared to tell us now
I can
what
tell
a
you what a
trial
trial will
costs?
cost.
Yes.
A trial will cost you easily well north of $100,000
Okay, that's scary.
and probably more like $200,000.
That's very scary.
It is very scary. So
Who pays for that?
parties do.
Out of the settlement?
Sometimes out of the settlement, family is a big thing. You know.
So if somebody wants to push and push and push against the system and say, I'm not talking to you, I don't want to agree to anything, and it's heading towards a trial, the one who wants to be reasonable ends up having to pay half of that.
Well, that's each. So that's what each party will pay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did not understand that. Thank
Each
you
party
for
will pay
clarifying.
their own lawyer that amount. In certain very, very limited circumstances, you can ask for a cost audit at the end. So let's say one party, Party A, was being completely unreasonable throughout the proceedings. You get to the trial because Party B was being reasonable and had no option but to go there. Party A really, we don't use win or lose in family law because what does that mean? But Party A didn't get anywhere close to what they were seeking. Party B can then ask for costs. But you're not going to get the 100 or 200 back. You're going to get a proportion of that. And you might be lucky to get 50K.
Right.
But that's also extremely rare. It doesn't happen very often at all.
Doesn't sound like much of a party. But anyway.
No, there's no partying.
And gorgeous, just one other thing, it's a bit of a lateral sort of idea, but what if one of the parties has sort of mental health problems, and is that part of the factoring in that you have to take into account, because they're not going to be very rational about how they agree to this agreement?
Absolutely. And one of the things around separation is that it can spark all sorts of mental health crises. So they can be fine, or they could have had some low-level depression, anxiety that then gets triggered by the separation. Anytime you're dealing with someone with real mental health problems, then you've got to be very aware of that and try and make the best of it. In some circumstances, it means getting someone appointed to run the case for that person if they're not able to make decisions for themselves.
Okay.
It's rare.
Who would make that happen?
A judge.
Oh, a judge.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Well, on that cheery note, as a special bonus, if you're listening to this, which you obviously are, Sarah has generously offered 3 lucky She Wasn't Born Yesterday listeners an extra 30% discount on an already discounted initial 1-hour appointment with Sarah. So if you're finding yourself in this terrible situation and, you can see things are coming to an end in your relationship, it might be a great idea to chat to Sarah about all of this stuff in advance, and it can't hurt just to have a chat anyway. But yeah, to get the 30% discount on the already discounted appointment, just head to the win page of Hope 1032. And Sarah, we hope we never see you professionally, but it has been an absolute delight talking to you personally.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
coming in and for your wisdom in this exceedingly painful area.
And Jenny, we'll see you privately after these sessions.
Too late. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sarah. Janet, we love hearing from people, don't we?
Even more than I love you.
So to leave us a message, go to hope1032.com.au, She Wasn't Born Yesterday podcast, and hit us up on the little get in touch box at the bottom of the page.
Doing that right now.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Hope 1032. Thanks for listening.